So I ask you, does death exist? Or do we continue to exist in a series of hidden durations? About 60 years ago, hanging out with my cousin Ronny, who most people thought was my brother, as did we, as that is how we referred to each other. And it just seemed easier, and basically it was true anyway. Well, for a while, that long summer ago, Ronny was staying with our family. He was raised Catholic. No, I was not. I was curious about those outfits and the secret chambers and especially the notion of the confessional. It all seemed so weird to this 11-year-old that I was. Even at that young age, we were pretty full-on irreverent, likely too many Mad magazines. Soon we came up with a bunch of confessions to make. Ridiculous things. I mean, after all, this is before I was aware of a lot of the raunchy things I could have made up. This 11-year-old bad boy, the 11-year-old bad boy things, like stealing candy or cigarettes, letting a mouse loose in the school, or even more big league things like stealing cars or burning down abandoned buildings. I had my list ready. We rode our bikes down to St. Mary's Church, and with all those doors and hallways and artwork, it was just so daunting. Soon we saw a threatening nun. We hightailed it out of there. But, well, all okay. The key was how much fun we had in the planning. And how much fun we had teasing each other about our failed attempt at sacrilege. Where we grew up, the drinking age was 18. Probably not a good thing. That 18th summer, we pulled over our car to relieve ourselves from the effects of entirely too many beers. Within moments, a policeman pulled up. He left us with a warning that we shouldn't urinate in public, as we could be arrested for indecent exposure. Well, two very inebriated young men drove home scared and laughing and unbelieving of our lucky escape from justice. I went to art school. Ronny dropped out of college, and we moved to San Francisco to see how a hippie actually behaved. We naturally found out they behaved all sorts of ways. However, we were quickly enamored with the vibe of San Francisco, our first experience living in a big city. Riding the cable car, a must in San Francisco, we heard the barely discernible distortion of some shouted words. Go runner. We liked the sound and decided that would be a great name to go by. Ronny became Rollo Go Runner, and I, Arrow Go Runner. Why? Because when we spoke the words, they were so indistinct, nobody knew what we were saying. A fabulous alias for a couple guys trying to figure out who they were and what they could be. A few months later, while hitchhiking, we got a ride with what we quickly found out to be a very drunk woman. Her car swerving all over the 4-lane highway. We truly thought our adventures just might be about to end. We looked at each other and we just broke out laughing. There was little else we could do, and we just couldn't stop. Well, the drunken woman driving the car decided she could not put up with us anymore. and she did what we had no control over. She pulled over and stopped to kick us out. And our adventures were to resume. That summer, we floated down Alaska's Shinjek River. It was starting way, way above the Arctic Circle, the land of the midnight sun. And it's true. It was just us and the grizzly bears and the moose and, oh my God, the mosquitoes. 2 days into the trip, we dropped our only clock into the river, fittingly. For from that moment on, during that trip, we had no concept of time. Less than a year later, I found myself nearly broke in southern Morocco. I decided to save what money I had left and hitchhike back to Europe so I could fly home. I was headed north, and my back, of course, was facing to the north. And a car heading south screeched to a halt. The back door swung open, and somebody yelled, "Hey, Jerry!" Out jumped Ronny. I had no idea he was in Morocco. He vaguely knew that I was in Morocco due to a postcard, which is kind of like saying, hey, maybe I'll see you somewhere in California. I can clearly hear Ronny in total confidence in the middle of some pursuit or another say, you know, we got the world by the ass. I wanted to introduce to you my brother, who died of cancer over 40 years ago. It's odd how a lifetime of incidents and experiences gets summed up in just a couple of anecdotes. And then there's the sailing adventure on a leaking sailboat in Hawaii, and a barroom brawl in Wisconsin, feeding the homeless on the Bowery for Thanksgiving, and the stolen boat up in the Yukon. All true, I assure you. And then there's the indelicate stories that best be left untold tonight. Ronny was funny, brave, philosophical, and always eager to plan an adventure. I miss him greatly. I wanted to share a couple of poems I wrote out of this book that I wrote and illustrated in memory of him and the notion that we both shared. Life is fleeting, and in its own way, death doesn't exist. Songs, extensions of breath plus generosity, measured in time, in each breath, each note, each rhythm, a hidden duration. Time flies, but where does it fly off? Is the flight ceaseless? Is the joy and purpose the act, the flight that never lands? In the universe, extensive and far-reaching, millions upon millions of manifestations every day. And the ideas never run out. The whole living construct is so huge that it swallows death. I'll never be out of this construct and the hinge that it all hangs on. Thank you, guys.